Hey, everybody.
Hello.
Yeah, I think this is the tightest squeeze. Oh, look at that. Look at that.
Oh, both of us.
This was the tightest squeeze we've ever had. I mean, just putting the last card up about 30 seconds before showtime. So, yeah, we are highly unprepared for this today.
Well,
yeah.
we're prepared informational wise.
Yeah, just not time wise. Anyway, as you can see with no microphones, and now the show begins. You bring out the microphone, and then the show begins. We are on Facebook, maybe. We're on YouTube, maybe.
Maybe.
We're on Twitch, if you can find us. We're on Twitter, and we are on Odyssey and Rumble and Clout Hub tonight. And of course, our good friends over at Looking Glass Media, lgm.news. We're over there as well. So they don't seem to want to kick us off just yet. That day's coming, but probably not yet.
Probably not yet.
Yes, that's Wayne, What's Up Canada, and a man known as Paul. Wendy Bell is over there. I think yes. Will Dove is on there. All sorts of, anyway, lots of podcasters, really great, authentic media providers that are all under one roof. Yeah.
Yay.
So, yeah.
We're in good company over at LGM News is what we're trying to say. And you can also find us on Brighteon, and there we're in good company as well.
Yes, we're on Brighteon occasionally when I get there. It's not like live. It doesn't go live.
No,
I
it
have
doesn't
to put
go
it on
live.
afterwards. And, hey, I'm not even getting the Substacks done. So, I mean, whatever. Okay, so what do we got tonight? Secret Society. Are we going anywhere this weekend? Are we going to be live anywhere?
We are. We've got two big meetings. We've got the People's Union CSA meeting on Saturday, and then on Sunday we are with Toronto Connect. So this is a busy weekend full of meetings.
Is one of those the Land Association thing for Coburg?
Oh, and that's right. And there's actually two meetings on Saturday. So we may have to split up to hit both those meetings, but there is a Land Association meeting at the Best Western in Coburg on Saturday as well. I believe it's to talk about the land grabs, the expropriation that the government's doing on all of our farmers' properties. And we know that Northumberland County has a lot of rural properties, a lot of farmland here. And so if you own land, you might want to check out the Best Western on Saturday. And I'm not 100% sure on the time that meeting is, but I'm sure if you go online to Best Western, you'll be able to see what time the meeting's at. And I believe it's going to be upstairs in the big room.
Yep, we may go and just may bring up the Northumberland Forest and what the heck's going on in there. So, are we harboring hobbits? We don't know.
Maybe some soldiers?
Maybe, or maybe just cutting extra trees down and going to take the land and fill it full of
little houses that our federal government
houses.
Claims is going to be built on public lands.
Stack them. That's the secret. Little houses, tiny houses, and stack them. And little ladders. I mean, it's been great for everybody, for little people.
It has. And if you were in the Alliston area today, I believe Trudeau, Freeland, and Ford were all at the Honda plant making a giant announcement about an EV battery electric vehicle addition to the Honda plant out in Alliston, because we all are so excited about driving EV vehicles that can't pull a trailer or get us very far in Northern Ontario, because as we experience, there's not many gas stations on those roads out there. Or what do they call them? Plug-in stations for the EV cars?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there's any. I don't think we passed a single plug-in transfer station when we did the drive out.
Just invest in extra extension cords. That's all you got to do. So did you see Paiju's little MK Ultra baby programming short out? And during the press junket today?
No, I didn't.
Oh, yeah, it's good.
No.
So the journalists are actually asking tough questions all of a sudden. Journalists are kind of had enough with towing the line, and he is not used to that, and he got really snippy. Like, you say 1,000 jobs, but how many jobs are you actually creating? If you can't hear me, then why are you here? Or something like that. I mean, I'm highly paraphrasing, but he got really snippy, and he's not accustomed to journalists not towing the line anymore. And I think they're kind of done with him.
Well, I think so, because he also said that the plant that's being built in Windsor would create thousands of jobs as well. And yet they are bringing in migrant workers to help build that plant. Even though there are all kinds of tradespeople that are unemployed in the Windsor area, and the unions are freaking out saying, why aren't you hiring our guys? We've put a multitude of bids on the jobs that are available, and the unions are not winning the bids. The companies in the unions are not winning the bids. So we've got actual Canadian skilled workers sitting on the unemployment line while the government allows immigrants to come in, be brought in to fill our Canadian skilled jobs.
My gut is telling me that Paiju might be working against us. Maybe. So, Pierre Jr. Paiju. We are talking about secret societies. We're going to be launching our secret society series. Why a series, you say? Because we cannot cover it in one show or even two shows.
By 2:00 this afternoon, we realized there was too much. On the Bilderberg, let alone the other two that we were going to cover tonight. And so at 2:00, we changed our plans for the show and decided just to focus on the one and do a series.
Right. And you're going to say, can you honestly do anything on the Bilderberg Group without bringing up all the other secret societies like Bohemian Grove, Canadian Privy Council, the Club of Rome, Committee of 300, Council on Foreign Relations, Euclidean Society, Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, Illuminati, Jesuits, Khazarians, Majestic 12, Masons, Rosicrucians, the Round Table, the Sebastians, the Satanists, Skull and Bones, United Order of Druids, Thule Society, Trilateral Commission, White, Gray, and Black Papal Bloodlines, Zionists, Lizard People, Nephilim, Aliens, and of course, Starbucks Rewards Gold members, because those mofos are weird.
And many more that are missing off that list.
No, you can't, but we're gonna anyway. We're gonna try it anyway. We're not even gonna cover half of those, but some of those we are, and we're gonna peek it right at the end with a really maybe shocking set of facts that you guys have not heard before, and it's taken us a year of digging, and we got very little on it. So we will reveal that on the last episode of this series, which might be Thursday, Monday of next week? Not Monday next week, but the following week.
I think we plotted out 4 or 5 shows.
4, yeah, so far 4. Next one will be on the Trilateral Commission of Council on Foreign Relations. Yes. Yeah, and then we will show you kind of how it all works together and under one big umbrella, and that is the Committee of 300. And they also report to even bigger than that, but who knows if we'll get time to get into that. So yeah, here we are.
So the Bilderberg Group, or Bilderberg Group, and this is a mistake not only us keep making, and I think it's because it just flows so much easier, Bilderberg Group, but it's actually
who doesn't love a good Bilderberger?
I love a good burger that I can build.
Harvey's, have it your way. Yeah.
But the Bilderberg Group was actually founded. The name was founded after the very first meeting place that they had, which was at the Hotel the Bilderberg, and that was in Oosterbeek, Netherlands, back in May 29th through to the 31st, 1954.
Yes. So Netherlands, birthplace of Satanism. So that's where Rothschild Castles is. That's where they spent a lot of their time right in the beginning. So oddly enough, that's where the seed of globalism is also starting. That in Geneva.
It just keeps planting seeds over there in Netherlands.
Yeah.
It's amazing. But the first Bilderberg meeting came about after World War II because the elites, I don't like calling them elites. I like to call them predators, but throughout pedocrats, yeah. Yep. But whenever you read about the Bilderberger, it talks about the elites. But anyway, the elites, that includes political, economical, financial, educational, media, people in the top probably 0.5% of the world. I wouldn't even say top 1% are included in that group. But they got together and they decided that they needed to have a meeting of the minds so that they could stop any future wars from happening. That was the idea behind it.
But it's just a casual weekend, getting together, basically camping in a luxury hotel, 7-star luxury hotels, and just informal talks. Nothing really gets done. They're just,
they're a glorified supper club is how they like to put it.
Right. And that's why they shroud it in secrecy. That's what we do when we go for dinner.
It's so much secrecy that they bring in the military, the Secret Service, police. They scan all the rooms for bugs, plantation. They do not allow any media exposure at all in these meetings. It runs under the Chatham House rules. And I didn't know what Chatham House rules was, so I looked it up. And lo and behold, Chatham House rules means that you can use the information that you learn at the meeting, but you're not allowed to identify any of the speakers or the participants at the meeting or who it was that gave you the information. And they're claiming that this allows the people who attend the meeting to speak freely in their own person, not as their uniform or as their title. They're not there in a professional capacity. They're there in a personal capacity. So it allows freedom for open debate and exchange of views. Hence, no recording devices, no meeting minutes are taken, nothing is voted on, no motions are done, and it's shrouded in absolute 100% secrecy.
Sounds like Bohemian Grove with fine dining. So I'm sure Bohemian Grove has fine dining as well. So when we're talking about this, remember, this is just one aspect of a very large thing. So this is David Icke's illustration. It all kind of goes around the round table. The round table is supposedly the Illuminati. And this is how it kind of works. Council of Foreign Relations at the top, United Nations, Bilderberg Group, Club of Rome, Royal Institute of International Affairs, which is basically Council on Foreign Relations for the UK, and the Trilateral Commission. And they all work together. And you can see that they've got cross coordination going on there. They all work together under the auspice of the round table, which would be, I don't know, throw it in there, your Masons or your Illuminati or whatever. So basically that's how that works.
Your Satanists, your predators, your plutocrats,
those guys. So so these are, now you can say, well, none of that stuff exists, but the groups exist.
They all have their own websites.
Secrecies around these groups exist. So, like, why wouldn't you want to question that? So let's get into our first video, and that is introducing the Bilderberg Group. This is David Icke. Now, normally we vet everything and everyone and whatnot. David Icke is starting to be that one guy who's getting a pass from us because he seems to be one of the very few people who actually know what's going on.
He's been hitting the nail on the head for 20 plus years now. Every time I go to vet his stuff, it checks out. Every time. So now I'm going, you know what? This man has got it going on. He has done his research. He knows his stuff inside and out. And luckily found some videos of him talking about Bilderberg Group. And we thought, who better than the expert to share a little bit of information for you guys.
Bilderberg Group first met in 1954 at the Bilderberg Hotel in Oosterbeek, Holland. To understand the timing of the creation of the
Can I play it from my machine?
I don't know.
Let me see if I can play it from my machine. Sorry, folks. This never seems to...
this happens. This happens
always,
a lot.
Right? Yeah. So I wonder if I can add it.
We keep trying to patch it, but...
Let's see if I can add it from my end. Or if it's still going to pull from you, probably, right?
Probably. All right. Well, we're going videoless. So basically, that was an introduction to Bilderberger.
Can you pull it from your files?
No. No, it's this. It's going to be the same. So,
Put it on Signal and I'll share it from my files.
in 2001, Dennis Healy, a Bilderberg Group founder and steering committee member for 30 years, said, "To say we are striving for a one world government is exaggerated, but wholly unfair. Those of us in Bilderberg felt that we couldn't go on forever fighting one another for nothing and killing people and rendering millions homeless. So we felt that a single community throughout the world would be a good thing." That is the best sales pitch for globalism I've ever heard. I almost buy it.
Yep, it truly is. Now, because we're missing the introduction from David Icke, and anyway, I will give you a little information. So the very first meeting that happened in 1954 in the Netherlands had 50 delegates from Western Europe and 11 delegates from the United States. Eventually, North America, which included Canada, was invited to the meetings. The very first meeting that happened in the United States was in 1957, and then the second one was in 1963. And guess who sponsored those meetings to a resounding tune of $30,000? Do you have a guess?
Volkswagen,
Close.
DuPont.
Close. Ford. Ford Foundation.
Yeah, they're there. Eugenics
was the big sponsor. The meetings now hold anywhere from 120 to 150 people, and it is the steering committee who decides who gets invited. So you're not just automatically accepted because you belong to the elite predator crowd. No. The steering committee, which has approximately 35 people on it from all across the world. Well, actually, not from all across the world, from Western Europe or North America, because Eastern Europe and the Asian countries are not invited. South America, not invited. It's literally Western Europe and North America that are invited to the Bilderberg meetings. So the steering committee usually sits about 35 people. And they are the ones each year that sits down and decides who's going to get the special invite. So as George Carlin said, it's a big club, but you're not in it. And that goes right to home when you have the steering committee. And when you see who's on the steering committee, it's supposed to change up every year, but it really doesn't. The majority of the steering committee remains the same. And also the steering committee decides where the meetings are going to be held each year, because they're held in different locations every year. Mm-hmm. And the steering committee also decides on what the budget is going to be. But the budget, the expenses of the budget, so that's the travel, the accommodations, the catering, and all the security costs, that is covered by the host members of the steering committee. So if the meeting's happening in Canada, the Canadian steering members actually have to fund that. So they go out and they find sponsors that will cover the cost, so it doesn't come out of their pockets. Therefore, it's a really great 4-day venture that is all expenses paid for the invitees, if you are lucky enough or special enough in their books, or you happen to own a company that fits in with the agenda that they decide is important to talk about or to push forward that year. Then you get an invite to this all expenses paid trip for 4 days to have stunning conversation over really amazing dinner.
Right. And the premise is that all these world-class bankers and politicians and CEOs and journalists get together to just talk, not steer anything, not decide upon anything, just to have informal discussions on what they would do in these situations for no reason whatsoever. But the thing is, we know, a lot of people know about the Bilderberg Group now. What people tend to forget is they actually kept it secret for the longest time, and you didn't even know. And so it was a conspiracy theory that the thing even existed for the longest time. And it was about mid-90s, I think, where they said, "Oh, we exist, but we're just going to keep it secret."
Well, because they used to do a press announcement. And they do this big hoopla press conference that they were having it, and this was their agenda. But in the mid-90s, they decided to cancel that due to the lack of interest. People weren't really interested in this. And at the end of the conference, they used to also hold a press conference saying, hey, we had a great time. We talked about world issues and it's wonderful. We're not going to report on it, but it was wonderful. And, Washington Post, New York Times, and Wall Street Journal have a standing invitation. They've been there over 40 years. And they actually got a thank you a couple of years ago. I think it was 2016. They actually got a thank you, a public thank you for coming under and not divulging anything that they heard. And you have to wonder, why does the media get a special invitation to this function if they're not allowed to report on it? Well, it's because we know the media is part of the propaganda machine. And how is the media going to know what to push the coming year if they're not invited to these secret meetings?
And on the flip side of that coin, why would they go if they can't report on anything? What would be the point? They're journalists. They have to report the news and they're not allowed. So why would they even go?
I don't know. I would consider that a big fat waste of my time if I wasn't allowed to report on it or report on who's there, because they're not allowed to report on who's there. And what they do as well is they don't announce until 2 to 3 days before the actual meeting what the agenda is going to be. They post it on their website and who the participants are. But they don't post all the participants. They post most participants, but not all participants, because in 2019 or 2022, Yuval Harari was a surprise guest, showed up, and all the journalists that were standing outside being held back by security were like, oh my gosh, what is he doing here? And then lo and behold, you've got prime ministers that show up that were not announced on the guest list. Imagine that.
Yeah, just putting the Canadian attendees list together it was a nightmare, because nothing, you would find pockets here, but you'll never find all the information. So the premise is that there's nothing secret going on. It's just a bunch of people who want to feel comfortable about letting loose. And so therefore everything's held, nothing to see here. And that's why we have the military and snipers keep you out to a huge degree. So the premise is nothing secretive is going on, and you're just a conspiracy theorist if you believe anything else. But as David Icke would say, even if the Bilderberg Group are not David Icke's slathering lizard men in silk hoods, the idea that they might be grouped in with the Illuminati has provided a convenient cloaking device, says journalist Hannah Borno. Conspiracy theories have served the group quite well, because any serious scrutiny could be dismissed as hysterical and shrill, she said. But look at the participant list. These people have cleared days from their extremely busy schedules. So it must be important.
Must be.
If you're not getting anything done and these are task-oriented people, why would they go?
I don't know. Obviously, they're there in their professional capacities, because one of the things that is stressed is what their titles are and where they're from. And if they were there in their personal capacities with no corporate or political or economical agenda, then why would it be important where they're from and what their title is?
We brought up Dennis Healy. He says, we make a point of getting along younger politicians who are obviously rising, to bring them together with financiers and industrialists who offer them wise words, increases the chance of having a sensible global policy. So that's it. They're just bringing young politicians aside. So again, they're downplaying anything going on. But again, they also think that they are the elites. And we are the plebes, and so therefore we're not entitled to this information, because we just can't think smart enough to be able to help them out. So they'll just handle it. They got this. We'll just give you the media or the military to talk to, and we'll get stuff done.
Exactly. But he says, it's just a supper club. Yeah. However, we are choosing young politicians. We're going to level them up so that they understand what policies we want them to push in the incoming years.
That's right. So understanding the Bilderberg Group as the center of an elite knowledge network is far more accurate than any simplistic and often naive claim to the contrary, especially from those that would malign it within the catch-all ignorant label of conspiracy theory. The public rationally can only surmise that it is nothing good, unless politicians revert to assuming their proper role as national and local leaders responsible for their own constituents' needs, as opposed to those of transnational corporations. The global crisis of democracy is surely set to continue. If we have to say say in the role these groups play in the world, which from Stoltenberg's own admission is a significant one, then do we really have a democracy? That's a good question. How is democracy working when it's all secretive?
That's right. And this transnational group gets together to discuss what the masses' needs are. However, nobody from the masses is actually invited. So how do they know what our needs are if it's all CEOs, managers, political leaders, government leaders that are running the show? They never actually ask for our input. They never invite us to the table. So how can this be a proper round table of discussion on what the masses, the general public, you and I, the plebes, need if we're never invited to the conversation? Right?
Oh, well, they don't
And
ask us. They tell us what we need, right?
True, but that's exactly why the democracy, what they claim is democracy, what they claim the world is living in is a democracy, it really truly isn't a democracy. Otherwise, we would be invited to these meetings. The meetings would not be secretive. They would be 100% transparent. And the media that is invited here would be able to report on it. So is democracy dead? Are all these leaders who go there under the guise of democratic nations, the EU Parliament talks about democracy all the time, but are we really truly a democracy when we're not invited to the Bilderberg Group meetings?
Yes. Yeah.
That's what they would like us to believe.
That's
anyway.
right. So let's talk about some of the agendas. Now,
Okay.
they have agendas listed on their own website, which is what bilderbergmeetings.org. So you can go there and look at their agendas, but some of them are already posted as 2019. They had a strategic. Now, again, when you're looking at these agendas, you're looking at what happened following those meetings. In the year after that followed those meetings, there were significant things that happened. Like 1 year, one of our videos talks about how they talked about raising the price of oil, but then they had to raise the price of oil and had to figure out how to do that. And lo and behold, there was a war in the Middle East. So supply and demand, right?
And the leaders were laughing about how they called that. They just didn't call it to happen so fast. They didn't think it would accelerate as fast as it did, but they
Right.
called it, ha, 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 we are fortune tellers, ah, ha, ha.
That's it. So key topics for 2019 were a stable strategic order. Now, oh man, it's so many times we have to go back into their own languaging and what that means, right?
We do. But
Yeah.
I want everybody to notice when you're looking at these agendas, how vague they are. This is what they post as being transparent with you.
Right. And so are they worried about this, or are they actually enacting all these things? Stable strategic order. That's the rule of law, rule of order, governance, good governance, rule of order, new world order. What's next for Europe? Climate change and sustainability. That's been on the book since 91. China, Russia, the future of capitalism, Brexit. Wasn't that long over by 2019, or am I wrong on that?
No, I think
timeline?
we were right in the spoils of it. Like, I
Okay.
think the exit was supposed to be happening during 2019 and 2020.
Weaponization of social media, which would really come in handy for them to have good knowledge on, because the following year went all haywire.
It's amazing that they talk about weaponization of social media, because at that point in time, social media wasn't being used as a weapon. It was really just being used as a way to share news and share, hey, look how cute my puppy is, and look at this cat doing something funny at that point in time. So it's amazing that they're talking about the weaponization of social media. Is that them weaponizing social media? Or is
Yeah,
that
I was already having
us?
shadow banning threats or issues by 2019. Because I mean, like you, I started fairly early on this,
Yeah.
right? So,
But, and I just want you to notice, China and Russia made just about every single agenda right from 1954 forward. China and Russia were on the agenda.
right. And then sandwiched in between that, and these agendas, they're not just haphazard, right?
They're vague, but not haphazard.
Right. So sandwiched in between there is the future of capitalism and Brexit, which was, all about economic upheaval, ethics of artificial intelligence. We've gone over that. And then geopolitical realignments in 2022. What does that mean? NATO challenges. So they had already been aware of the Ukraine war by 2014. And then again, China, Indo-Pacific realignment, which is, I would include probably Hong Kong and Taiwan on the stuff that's going on there. Sino-US tech competition, Russia, continuity of government and the economy, disruption of the global financial system, which would be happening just 2 years later which was happening by then, by 2022, while they're talking about bringing in Basel. Disinformation made the list again. Energy, post-pandemic health, fragmentation of democratic societies. How did they know that it would just keep deteriorating? That was a good call. Trade and globalization. And again, the Ukraine is on there. 2023.
AI, the banking system, of course, China again, energy transition. Would that be our carbon tax that we now have? Europe, fiscal challenges, India, because, they were stealing land from the Indian farmers, industrial policy and trade, NATO, Russia, of course, transnational threats. I believe that's us, Ukraine, and the U.S. leadership.
Now, in these agendas, going back through them, Trump comes up a lot.
Yes, he does. And just so you're aware, anybody who's paying attention, 2020 and 2021 agendas are not here because of COVID. They did not have their annual meet together because they can't very well tell citizens they have to lock down and can't go on planes when they're jumping on planes and having a meeting with 120 to 150 people. And of course, because it is all private, there's no way in hell they are going to have this meeting by Zoom, because we all know Zoom is being tracked and traced and recorded, and Zoom is very easy to hack. And anybody at any given time can throw a camera on and record the meeting that's happening.
Yeah,
so
like they don't have their own internet anyway.
They probably do, but again, they'd be fearful of somebody having a camera in the background or a phone on recording what was being said.
Yeah, why wouldn't you? If you're a secretive slug. So now some notable agendas going back. So 1995, this was the year that they stopped doing public reporting. And so this is where they kind of loosened up quite a bit in their agendas.
Exactly, because before this, their agendas would have anywhere from 1 to maybe 5 items, typically 4 items. The odd one in the 80s, they started getting a little bit longer. And then in the 90s, they went, you know what? Nobody cares that we're doing this. There's a big lack of interest. So we're just going to stop making public media announcements. We're going to stop doing the public conference, wrap-up conference at the end. We're just going to stop telling people that we're meeting or doing anything. And when you start looking at the 1990 agendas, you wonder if perhaps they didn't have a hidden agenda reason why they stopped, and that it wasn't due to lack of interest, because looking at these things on this agenda, I would definitely be interested in knowing. So I really think that that was just a convenient excuse to stop letting people know what they were doing.
Sure. And then you start getting into different, you can go in and go on their own site and you can look at these agendas and you can start looking them in comparison with world events the following year.
And they all line up.
But I want to bring up this one, the year 2000.
Oh, we didn't talk about what was on 95. We said, look at it. So 95, we've got what is NATO supposed to do, but we also have on here our agendas for the World Trade Organization and the World bank. And then they also have on here peacekeeping in an, if you're looking at it at first glance, it looks like peacekeeping in an unstable world. But when you look at it closer, they've got UN capitalized, peacekeeping in a UN stable world,
Right.
which tells you the UN is actually behind everything that's going on. They want the UN to actually be the world power that decides everything for everybody. These
Wow.
meetings are about globalization and centralizing everything under one roof to stop any further wars from happening and to make sure that they continue to hold the power and that the masses, who are many, never ever overthrow the elites, who are few.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably more like they want the UN to be the face of what they're doing, so everybody's looking at the UN and not looking at them. And we're finding that with the UN taking the heat for the BIS and the IMF, like people are not usually looking in the right direction. World Economic Forum is really the front for a lot of these other things, so they want us looking in those directions. And then after that, lessons of new currency crises, like how did they know there would be a new currency crisis, and practical steps towards better global governance and rules. Now that's New World Order language, right?
Global governance, no longer sovereign countries governing themselves. It is global governance. So when we say this agenda has been in the works for a long time, we actually see it right in our face in 1995. If you look at the previous agendas, they do allude to this as well.
Right. And they're using the terms good governance a lot. So we know that it's a talking point for them. So moving on, we're going to look at the next one here. And this is the year 2000. So a new economy and its effects on society, globalization under threat, the way forward for the WTO, World Trade Organization. And that's the one I wanted to highlight. Globalization under threat, the way forward for the World Trade Organization. What happened in 2001?
Oh, would that be 9/11 happened in 2001?
9/11 happened in 2001, and they brought down the World Trade Organization.
Centers.
Exactly. And then they, in their place, they put it.
Or World Trade Towers, sorry, the Twin Towers.
The Twin Towers. And in their place, they put up one building called the One World Trade Center.
Amazing that in 1995, they're talking about the World Trade Organization. And again in 2000, they talked about the threat, the global threat under the World Trade Organization. And what were they doing? 9/11 happened the following year. Bam, they've got their one building now to cover global governance easily.
And I love European far right. Is there a threat? How come we're never talking about the far left? How come that never comes up? It's because the lefties got the power grab for now. That's why. So, so those are some of the agendas, and these are, again, they're just talking. But a lot of coincidences happen after the Bilderbergers, and again, up until so.
Exactly. Which is amazing.
So attendees would be who you think they are. Henry Kissinger, Rockefeller. There's a lot of crossover with the Bilderberg Group to the Trilateral Commission and to the Council of Foreign Relations. So they're all kind of like, just like BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street. There's just this incestuous love orgy going on with these things, and they're all crossing over into one another. So they're all very merged. So they all pretend that they're a separate group, but they're very, very married together. So attendees, like we say, like all the people that you would think would be in it, the people who, you know, are part of Bohemian Grove, all the secretive people, Bush, Clinton, they've all been part of these meetings.
Henry Kissinger rarely ever misses a meeting. He's been there since 1954. He helped fund or found the Bilderberg Group, CIA, and obviously a few notable leaders, including, I believe it was the Prince Bernhard of the Netherlands. So they are the founders, and Henry Kissinger is at right up until he passed away at 98. I think he was 98 years old or 94 years old when he passed away.
Right. We're getting broadcast issues on this one. Awesome. We're on the right.
Okay. I'm I can still see us on the Rumble screen. So if you're on Rumble, we're still here.
Rumble, TFM. Report.com. You can still catch us there. We had issues with Facebook going into it. YouTube likes to cut us off whenever. So TFMreport.com and also Rumble channel, TFM Report on Rumble. So getting back into that, we wanted to focus on Canadian attendees, and this was hard to find because there's not any one list. You have to go and find pockets. So here are some, according to Wikipedia anyway, here are some of the attendees in Canada. Gordon Campbell, Premier of British Columbia. Remember that guy?
Yes.
Got caught for drinking and driving. Mike Harris, Premier of Ontario. Jason Kenney, we all remember him. Bernard Lord, Premier of New Brunswick. A lot of premiers heading to this thing. Frank McKenna. Bill Morneau, remember him?
Yes, I do remember
Stepping
Bill
on
Morneau.
his sword for Trudeau so he can keep going. Alison Redford, Brad Wall, Saskatchewan. Nigel Wright, Chief of Staff, Office of the Prime Minister of Canada. Lester B. Pearson, ex-Prime Minister. Pierre Elliott Trudeau, of course, would have been at one of those things. John Chrétien, of course, would also have been in the Paul Martin, same thing. Stephen Harper, same thing. Shows you Stephen Harper's not innocent for all you conservative love and Pierre Poilievre people.
You got it. And we know that Chrystia Freeland was there back in 2022.
Well, we'll get there.
Oh, okay.
So here's some of the past attendees in 2006, and sorry for the list. I had to find this. I had to dig deep to find this old copy. So a lot of bankers on this. Right to Play, I don't know what that is. Johan Koss from Right to Play, I don't know what that is. We should look that up. And then Swiss Bank, TD Bank, Royal Bank, and then Robert Pritchard, president of the Toronto Star Corporation. And then, shockingly enough, the chair and CEO of Indigo. Now, you remember Indigo?
Yes.
They were kicking out handicapped people who couldn't put masks on. Remember
That's
that?
right. You're not allowed to read a book.
But like disabled couldn't put a mask on at all. They couldn't do it. And they were kicking them out, disabled people.
Well, because disabled people didn't fit with their agenda.
But here's the deal. You could go into a restaurant, and as long as you're sitting down, you could take your mask off. Last time I checked, people in wheelchairs are sitting down. And they're still telling them to put their mask on or get out.
Well, I was told to put a mask on, and I'm about as tall as anybody sitting down.
That's true. You're very hobbity. Yes.
So,
yes.
Yeah.
So now we'll go back. In 2013, Galen Weston, Heather Reisman, Indigo again, Ed Clark, TD Group, Brad Wall, Saskatchewan Premier, Frank McKenna, Premier, Rob Pritchard again from Toronto Star. Now, Toronto Star called the Bilderberg, anybody who calls the Bilderberg a secret society, they did a thing on it. They did a hit piece on conspiracy theorists and Bilderberg Group, even though they're a part of it.
Even though they're a part of it. But part of it is like Fight Club. We all know about Fight Club, but we don't talk about Fight Club. Oh. That's Bilderberg Group.
Well, how does anybody get into Fight Club if you don't talk about Fight Club?
Oh, no. You get a special invite. It's not marketed. It's not promoted. You get a special invite by the secret upper class.
Oh, sweet. Waiting on that still. And so one of the other videos that we had talked about Conrad Black, who is super uber famous and has like come out basically on our side
now,
pretending to be on our side now. Yeah, major Bilderberger, and he owns all these newspapers, and not one of them has ever done a story on the Bilderberg Group.
Amazing.
So yeah, nothing to see here, folks. So here are the attendees, some of the Canadian notable attendees. May 2023, Chrystia Freeland's on there. 2022, Chrystia Freeland's on there. And then I've highlighted Mark Carney has showed up several times, and there's a reason for that. So
he likes free meals. He likes free vacations, because these vacations are not paid by us taxpayers.
Yeah. That's right.
Trudeau needs to take a book out of Mark Carney's book.
Now,
paid for free on somebody else's dime, not the Canadian taxpayer, gosh darn it.
Now, Mark Carney has been making the rounds recently because he did a big speech for somewhere, and it says Canada 2020 on it, but it was just a speech recently. Now, people aren't kind of aware of Mark Carney. Some people are, and they're really kind of getting onto it. We've got one eye on Mark Carney. We haven't really brought him up just yet, but we've been keeping an eye on him because Mark Carney, this is Mark Carney. He is a Canadian economist. He was the governor of Bank of Canada. He was with Goldman Sachs for a while, for about 13 years for a while. Department of Finance, he was a senior associate deputy minister, and then he was the G7 deputy. Chairman of the Basel-based Financial Stability Board, who we've talked about, Bank of International Settlements. He was the chairman of the Committee on the Global Financial System. He was the governor. He was so good, he got brought over to the UK, and he was the governor of the Bank of England for a while. Board of the fintech company Stripe. So now we know where Stripe lands, but we knew that right away because they kicked us off.
Canceled us.
We're one of the only people they canceled us immediately.
Within, what was it, a week? I think we did one or two shows and then they canceled us.
Right. And then we did an appeal with another guy and he's like, I don't know why you got kicked out. So we got back in. So maybe now we're out.
Maybe
probably.
We're out now.
Yeah. Financial advisor for the UK presidency for the COP26 United Nations Climate Change Conference. And he's been with Brookfield Asset Management as well. And he heads the International Social and Governance ESG Fund investment strategy. This man is a globalist through and through. If there's anything global financial related, this man is part of it. And then he gave this speech, and there were so many snippets coming out of this speech, but one of them was basically, this is not the time to pull back and slash government. We need to grow government and take a risk, and we need to show people that government is strong. So we need to grow the state, not cut the state like Polyev wants to do. He's just rage farming. He just wants to make you angry so he can tear down what you think is democracy so he can build it back in his own image. And this is basically, I'm very paraphrasing, but that's what Mark Carney was saying. And this, this was making the rounds on Twitter and it's going everywhere. But here's the thing, Mark Carney is the forefront for Trudeau's replacement at this point. A lot of people are putting their money on him coming forward to head the Liberal parties.
Well, you know, Chrystia Freeland's really busy on the board of trustees with the WEF, and how many other boards is she on? She has a couple other leading roles in global organizations. So she really doesn't have the time to be the Prime Minister of Canada. So she needs Trudeau to stay in there until Mark Carney is completely polished and completely up to date on the agenda of the Bilderberg Group so that he knows coming in what he's expected to do, because the Bilderberg Group, unbeknownst to a lot of us, is where a lot of young up-and-coming politicians go in order to get noticed, in order to be funded, because many presidents and prime ministers, after going to Bilderberg, before they're prime minister, all of a sudden the following year, or within the following 2 years of them going to Bilderberg, all of a sudden they get these magical nominations and amazing political contributions to their campaigns to run and become the next prime minister or presidents.
I know who you're going to say.
Who am I going to say?
It starts with an A.
With an A?
Yeah.
No.
Oh, well, Angela Merkel is one of them.
She's one of them. Bill Clinton, Margaret Thatcher, Obama, Tony Blair. They're all part of the prime minister, PM, presidents. Let's push them forward because they get the plan, they understand the plan, and they're really good at taking orders.
So weren't Obama and Bill Clinton Rhodes Scholars as well?
Yes, they were.
So that's a whole nother thing. We should have added that to our secret societies list. Rhodes Scholars, all about funding the future presidents and whatnot.
So, there's a theory out there that the Bilderberg Group is really, really great at building future leaders and really amazing at spotting leadership talent.
Amazing. Like scouts that don't see it coming. They're just lucking in to all these people, not like they're handpicked or nothing.
No, not at all.
Sarcasm.
Yeah.
So yeah, but here's the thing, Chrystia Freeland started getting called to these meetings, and she's been getting called more and more.
Yes.
And so there was a lot of speculation that she would be the next Angela Merkel, that she was going to take over Canada. There's a lot of speculation about that 2 years ago now.
Yeah.
I think it was.
But then Mark Carney.
Now Mark Carney's looking good for it. Yeah. So now it's time to keep an eye on Mark Carney, because he's got globalist stamped written all over him,
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this is a place where all the big lobbyists go, because they can lobby freely without it costing them any money.
Right.
And they can lobby in secretive. They can have these one-on-one meetings, and it's not, the management team going and lobbying the government, which is typically what happens. It's actually the CEOs and founders of the company that have one-on-one access to government, so they can push through their agenda without anybody else knowing,
Right.
without them being called out in any way, shape, or fashion of conflict of interest or improper. I don't know what you want to call it. Improper. What's the word?
Botulism.
Sure.
We finish each other's sentences all the time.
Sure.
Right.
So yeah.
So this is just one piece of a very big puzzle.
Sorry.
No.
Okay,
We
go.
just wanted to, we just wanted to make sure that we did this right, because we started doing all of these in one show, and today we just said, nope, got to do them all in separate shows. But what you're gonna be pleasantly surprised at the end and see how they all fit together in a big piece of the puzzle. And go.
And another thing we forgot to mention at the top of the show is that the Bilderberg Group is registered as a charity.
Oh, so you can donate to them.
So you can donate to them.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. It's set up as a charity. And do you know what they're set up under a charity as? Because you have to define what your charitable purpose is, what it is you do as a charity. Do you know what that is?
Save the kids. I don't know. It's always the kids,
close.
Right? Save the adults.
Public education.
Right.
It's set up as a public education charity. So anybody who sponsors the event, Ford, Nokia, Fiat, Saks Goldman, they all get charity receipts
Or Goldman Sachs
for paying for this wonderful 4-day weekend away. They all get charity receipts. So it's 100% write-off. But the interesting thing is that it's supposed to be for public education purposes, and yet none of it's public. It's 100% secret and private, and you're not invited to it. So I don't know how it gets to sustain that label of public education charity when there's nothing public, nothing educational, and most certainly nothing charitable about it.
Yeah, it's a perfect business model. The universities would thrive under that. So you can take a course, but we can't tell you what the content is. So that's what happened to me. That's why I still don't have my doctorate. Shh.
But you're getting one in journalism, aren't you?
Yeah, sure. I'm getting one in, messing with you, globalism. Yeah.
Do you think another video will work or no?
We can try with the short one, the little one.
The little one?
Yeah.
Heyday, when these systems are powerful, they are powerful because
they have persuaded the mass of people to do what they want.
Yeah, exactly right.
There's more to it than that. I cannot believe every time we do a major dump, deep dive,
when we do
we go
globalist
down.
stuff, when we do the heavy globalist stuff, and we're always like, maybe this is the thing that gets us killed, but not today.
Maybe
this ground has been covered, so
maybe
not until we get to the last episode, and then that one might
maybe. But my big question was, after knowing the little bit of information we've given you, now we've given you about 50 minutes worth of information. The big question that has to be asked, are they a secret society or just a private one? What's the difference? Because they're claiming they're not a secret society. They're claiming they're just a private one doing transparent things as just normal general public people.
Well, it sounds to me like they're a secret society with marketing. Because, I'm private and I don't have a military around the house making sure people can't come to the house. I don't have snipers on the roof. There's a degree of privacy and there's a degree of secrecy. And if you're just private, then why all the security? Are we really that dangerous to them?
Well, especially when they're supposed to be discussing and debating us.
Right. And again, let's bring up the fact that it wasn't that long ago, and so many people have short memories, but I do remember when it was even a conspiracy theory to say the Bilderberg Group existed.
Mm-hmm.
People tried to say, here are the pictures of them going into these hotels. Here is all the proof. And everybody's like, oh, it's just a conspiracy theory. It's nothing. They don't. And just like Bohemian Grove, it doesn't exist, right? Until Alex Jones got it on camera.
And now they have to admit it exists.
Right. And now that's like, wow, there's nothing that goes on there. Nothing happens there. So it's really citizen journalists that expose these things. And then they have to switch it up with the marketing ploy.
Yeah. My big thing is it's one thing to be, as you said, a private meeting or what have you versus a secret society. But there's lots of private meetings out there. There's the G7, there's the G20, there's the WEF, there's the UN SDG meetings. Those are all private meetings. And yet,
well, they're pretty heavily secured.
They're heavily secured, but they're marketed. There's wrap-up conferences. There's parts of it that are allowed to be actually viewed on social media, and journalists are allowed to report on what is said and what is done. And you get to see all of the people there, all of the participants, and see some of the meetings they're having. And then some of the closed door meetings that they're having, about them. You're just not allowed to know. So that's the difference between a secret society and a private one. Private ones are still televised. You still get to know what the agendas are. You still get to see the people, and reporters are allowed to report on it. But a secret society is one where there's absolutely no reporting, no talking, no discussion of who's there, nothing. And even the list that they put on bilderbergmeetings.org, their own official website, even those websites do not break down the agenda. They're excruciatingly vague. And even the participant lists that they actually print aren't all of the participants who actually go. So that to me says secret society. There's no transparency there at all.
Right. And especially when policies are being set with these people. You can't tell me that a bunch of task-oriented people getting together for an entire weekend and nothing is coming out of that. That they're just meeting and chatting and nothing is coming out of that. Not one of them would go if nothing came out of it. If it was just chatting and nothing ever got accomplished from those meetings, none of them would feel the need to attend this thing because it wouldn't be, important enough.
Well, actually, one of the leaders, and I didn't write down who it was. I think he was the leader of Sweden, actually took a selfie with, I think it was Finland's leader, took a selfie and posted it and said, so glad I got to meet XYZ from Finland. We got to talk about, and I can't remember what deal it was or what event going on in the world was happening. We got to talk about this and we've made a consensus and you're going to read about the agreement soon. I was like, oh
yeah.
That's like breaking the rules, because not only did he take a selfie, but he actually said, we talked about this at Bilderberg Group and we have come to a consensus and now we're doing a deal. Because the whole point of the Bilderberg Group is that you're not there as a title. You're not there in any official capacity, and no deals, no discussions, no treaties, no agreements, no agenda is being discussed. You're there as a private citizen having a great dinner with other elite rich citizens of importance in this one little group. But no worry, no plans are being discussed, made, or deals signed. And he broke that covenant rule. I would be amazed if he got invites after that.
That is a Chris O'Dowd level of social media faux pas. So You don't even know what I'm talking about, do you?
No.
Chris O'Dowd. He was the cop in Bridesmaids. That's what most people know him from.
Oh,
The Irish
I
guy.
like him.
Yeah.
He's adorable.
He is, and he posted a picture of his wife in her underwear on his honeymoon. So
he's not so adorable anymore.
I don't think they're married anymore. Yeah, he was in big trouble. That was a big mistake. Yeah, so I mean, they do confirm it here and there. That's the same Bohemian Grove stuff. We all meet, all these high level people meet at Bohemian Grove and do all this secret stuff, but we don't do anything. We don't get any agenda. Nothing's done. No deals are done.
No.
So,
but
or so they say.
Another thing that the Bilderberg points out for us, if we didn't already know it, and there are people who say they're awake, but they're not really awake, because when we talk about elections coming up and they talk about, oh, you got to vote Democrat, or oh, you got to vote Republican, or oh, you got to vote Liberal, oh, you got to vote Conservative. If you were awake and you were paying attention to the attendee lists, and you can go to bilderbergmeetings.org and look up the participants from 2019, 2022, and 2023. Unfortunately, they don't have listed there anybody beyond 2019. And Chris had to dive deep into the archives to even get the list that he got from previous meetings before that. But when you look at who's going to these meetings, how private they are, it doesn't matter if you're Democrat or Republican or liberal or conservative or green or labor
or purple.
They're all sitting at the same table, side by side, laughing, enjoying wine and lobster dinners, with media across the table, and with CEO giants at their elbows. And they're all talking about the same ideals, the same views, the same agenda. And then they come out of there and they put forward their agenda. That is all the same. Because if you have a different ideal, you are not invited to the table. If you do not have the same sort of financial status, you are not invited to the table. They don't care about your views, my views, Chris's views.
I care about my views a little.
No. Otherwise, you'd be sitting at that table.
Oh, no, they know me.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. So if you think your government is concerned about you, then you need to be asking why you're not at that table. They're not concerned about you. They're concerned about keeping their status. They're concerned about keeping their power. They're concerned about keeping their control. And they're concerned about the masses, because there's so many more of us than there is of them. They're concerned about the masses rising up and realizing we are just as powerful and just as important, if not more so important. And all they discuss at this meeting is how to keep us down and how to keep control of their power without us understanding or realizing the power we have.
Right. I mean, there's a logical breakdown anyway, because if they're just talking about discussion, they're not doing any policy setting. If they're just discussing things informally, and a politician goes and they're representing their people and they can't be transparent about that, that's a bit of a logical fallacy. So saying that nothing really happens, they just want to discuss their opinions and their views, but they want to be able to let their hair down. If they can't be transparent, yet nothing's happening, that's a logical breakdown. And so it doesn't wash. That's so obviously things are going on there.
Exactly. And if they're all aligned in their thinking, then the result is always the same. Further the transnational agenda while leaving, what did I put here? While lining their own pockets. Again, there's a big club out there, and we're not in it.
Nope. So that is the Bilderbergers. That is a slight dive into Bilderbergers. We had a little more to show you, but the videos didn't go our way tonight. So next time we'll be... I
think Michael put up something about right to play.
Oh, he did? Well, go ahead, Michael. Bring it up, buddy. Oh, there you are.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Yeah, so Right to Play seems to be a charity organization targeting at-risk youth. So this is the Canadian site, so specifically talking about Aboriginals, but they're definitely international. And yeah, they're trying to empower at-risk youths. But really what I think it's about is indoctrinating them. The younger you get to them, the easier it is to get your mindset in. And at-risk youth are possibly more susceptible to these tactics, I would say.
Well, possibly. I mean, on the surface, it looks like a really great thing.
It
I
does.
mean, sometimes it's just better not to scratch the surface. But
No, but we also
thank you for
know
that.
millions of dollars have been sent to the chiefs of the indigenous groups. And yet these indigenous groups still don't have safe drinking water. And there's a lot of mental health issues on the reserves. So where exactly is our dollars going? As we said with the Bilderberg Group, they are more concerned about keeping their power and keeping their financial status than they are in actually helping the masses. Because once you help the masses and they have clear heads and they're not stressing about how to put food on the table, all of a sudden their brain works a lot better and a lot quicker. And when they realize they have the power en masse, then we can do amazing things together, which then disrupts the pyramid chain of power and control.
Yes, what she said.
We are dangerous to them, Luann. Absolutely, we are.
Yeah. So that is our Bilderberger show. Bilderbergers. That is that. Next time, Trilateral Commission and Council on Foreign Relations. And that's actually kind of juicy as well, because that's getting next level up into the globalist stuff for sure.
And again, we sincerely apologize that the videos we wanted to include, which would have enlightened you a lot more, not just from our points of views, but several other points of views. For whatever reason, they wouldn't play yet again. So that tells us we are over the X and somebody doesn't want you to know the power that you actually have, and that our government is a sham, or the word government, the democratic government, is a sham, because it's not a democracy if you don't get to sit at the table and share your voice.
Yes, best Balder Big show ever. How dare you? Like, how dare you?
I'm not bald yet. I'm getting close, but I'm not bald yet.
And I'm not going to say that you're big. I'm not that stupid.
Thank you, Bob.
Yeah. So that's that show. It's going to get better and better until we get the big show at the end of this. And then we've gone through secret societies. Then we get that under our belts, and that's gone. And then we can get back into just doing good old UN stuff.
Well, good old UN stuff, and we've got a really great, we've got a food story, food supply story that we need to bring to you with Mr. Edward Embry, the incredible and super educated Edward Embry. And we also have a whistleblower story to bring you. And
yeah, that's a big one.
And you know who you are if you're watching the show. We have so much on the go, but we just feel with so much going on in the world right now, and we've got the WHO pandemic treaty coming up, and we've got elections coming up, that you really, really need to understand who these predators are that are in charge and calling the shots. Because if you don't know your enemy, how can you fight your enemy? And how can you find solutions if you don't understand what the problem is? And as David Icke said, and you heard as I was watching his video in the other office, and you went, yes! I heard you say, yes, that's it, or something from the other room. He said, the root of the problem. Oh, what did he say?
He says everybody wants solutions. And he says, I don't want to worry about solutions. I want to just get rid of the problem.
Exactly.
And the rest will take care of itself. And that makes a lot of sense to me. And so, how do we do that? Well, I mean, we keep hyping faith, get back to your faith, and whatnot. And we'll be doing a show on Eve and all the things that flow out of that soon. Exactly. And so we're going to bring it back to the Bible a lot too.
Yes, that's what he said. Remove the cause of the problem, as more solutions only cause more problems.
That's right.
And then he used the analogy, You got a boiling cup of water and you put your finger in it. Your finger is burning. Are you going to ignore that? No, because ignoring it doesn't make it go away. Sitting in silence doesn't make it go away. But if you remove your finger or you remove the cup, you've removed the problem and your finger's fine. So you got to remove the problem.
Yeah.
The problem is just an expression of the cause. Remove the cause of the problem and the problem disappears. Voila. That was from
Problem is
Mr.
you're using
David
the wrong
Icke.
finger. That was the real problem. So, all right, everybody. That's it for tonight. We will see you on Monday.
Yes.
With a whole new show in this series, and then maybe wrap it up Thursday or the possible following Monday. And I think that's about it.
I think that's it.
Yeah.
Have a great weekend. And we may see you at the Best Western Saturday in Coburg talking about land expropriation, or we may see you in, I believe it's Mississauga at the PSA CSA or PSU CSA meeting, or we may see you in Toronto at the Toronto Connect meeting. Either way, have a great weekend. If you're not with us at any of these meetings, please be with your children or with your family and friends, laughing, making special memories. And don't forget, hug your kids. Tell them you love them. Tell them their voice is important and remind them to always ask why.
Okay, bye, everybody. See you Monday.